Hi, my name is Arthur and welcome to Celestial Wellbeing. Today we're going to talk about expectations. Dun, dun, dun. This is a really tricky word, and what's interesting about expectations is there's a really logical side, like most words, and then there's a really etheric way that it really affects our beings as well. So a logical approach could be that you go fishing and you expect to catch fish, but then you may not, which may lead to disappointment. If you go to the supermarket, they have an expectation that you'll pay for your purchase. Yeah. If you go to work, you expect to be paid. But what about when expectations work in the mind? Yeah, like on a very personal level, when you have an expectation that somebody's going to keep their word to you, or you have an expectation that because you're in a relationship, certain things are going to happen. And this word can be your own worst enemy in many ways. And so many years ago, I was in a group, like a men's group, and they spoke about expectations. And at the time, like at a part of my life that was really highly volatile, this word came up, and there was a phrase that they put to expectations, and expectations equals premeditated resentments. Now, when I first heard this, I thought I understood it. Like it sounds pretty straightforward, yeah? And expectations equal premeditated resentments. And like I said, I thought I understood it. And it wasn't until I started applying it that I realized how I didn't understand it, like at all. And I started finding myself, catching myself through expectations, and a whole new world opened up once I started working within myself around what expectations are. So I'm going to try and explain this to you to make it a bit easier so you can start putting it into practice. And now, of course, since I've looked at this word and I've experienced it, and I've began developing it into my being, I should say undeveloping it in my being, hopefully I can explain it to you. So we're going to go back to the trusty old celestial being. And expectations have a very future-dominated thought process. Yeah, so a lot of it is future-related. Because to expect something means it hasn't occurred yet, and it possibly will occur. Possibly. And it's a big question mark when an expectation may or may not occur, because you don't know. You don't know what's going to happen into the future. And then soon I'll be looking at the word ion as well, and how that plays out. But you're creating a possible future with an expectation. And now, where the premeditated resentment comes in is you may have already created possible scenarios around your future expectation. So a future expectation could be, let's say, a friend of yours asks you to loan them some money. In your being, you already have a question mark around the integrity of this person. Yeah, so straight away you're already feeling, yeah, no, that's a bad idea, because I know, they're really bad with money. They gamble and they drink and they do this and they do that. They do all these things, right? So you go against how you feel and you lend this person the money. Okay? So you've made a future projection around lending this person money, and in your being, you may or may not get it back. So, in the background, what's happening? You've created possible outcomes of the future, right? So the possible future outcome is your money will be returned at the appropriate time. There's also the possible future that your money will not be returned. And this is where the premeditated resentment comes in, okay? Because on the other side of your being, the internal part of your being, you've already created scenarios. And that first scenario will be, oh, I know they won't pay it back. So you know they're not going to pay it back. Yeah? So that's the stem, that's the seed of your resentment. And then you start creating possible outcomes when you know it's not going to get paid back. This will be your opportunity to tell them how you really feel. And remember, you've already gone against your gut feeling, yeah? And so there's two possible things going on. You know that they're not going to pay it back. You're going to tell them exactly how you feel, you know, what everybody's thinking, but is just afraid to tell them, yeah? And then it affects your being even more. Just these thoughts come back to bite you in the bum. And then what happens? Then you begin to project more resentments about times that you did lend money and you were burnt and how that made you feel. And, you know, a real simple feeling, let's just generalize it, that feeling made you feel like poop. And you told yourself you'd never put yourself in this situation again, but somehow you've gone against how you really felt and you've done it anyway. You know, oh, we're going to take we'll take the approach of, you know, give them the benefit of the doubt, yeah? But your body's already telling you, this is a bad idea, yeah? So now you've created this positive thing, we'll give them the benefit of the doubt, but somehow, if they break your doubt, you're going to be really angry. Yeah? You're going to be cranky. You're going to feel the need to project, right, your resentments on this other person. Because you already knew. Yeah? Expectations equal premeditated resentments. So you're creating possible outcomes within your being that may or may not occur. So if we look at that in an energetic perspective, let's go back to our humble celestial being. And if you're one who works with the universe and the law of attraction and those sorts of things, you know, you've projected that you're going to lend this money in good faith, but you've also projected a possible outcome and another possible outcome and another possible outcome and another possible outcome as an example, right? So this is the physical handing over. Okay, so this has actually occurred in the 3D, in the physical world. Whereas all the other possible outcomes are in the etheric. Yeah? So they're in your mind. Even though they're in your mind, and I'll keep saying this, the celestial being is a creator. Anything it thinks, anything it does is a creation. So now what happens, now that you've created these possible resentments to your expectation, possible outcomes of worst case scenarios and how you're going to respond to them, you're actually creating more consciousness. So each one of these possible resentments towards your expectation have their own mind, right? So if the money isn't going to be returned, you are going to respond in a particular way, yeah? If the money is returned, and you know very well that the integrity of this person around money is a bit shady, you know, you're still creating an outcome there. And it still may have an element of resentment about it. Even though they've done the right thing by you, you know, you're still creating some kind of resentment around it. And so that works with each of these. And so now that you've created these possible outcomes, and they all have their own little voice, right? So this scenario will have its own voice, this one will have its own voice, this one will have its own voice, and this one will have its own voice. So by having these expectations, each one of these little energy forms that you've created will have an effect on your being in some way. And, you know, it may play in your mind. It may make you feel a certain way, yeah? So there's all these possible things going on around expectations, but it's physically affecting you and it's emotionally affecting you. So if you're going to have an expectation towards something, which I suggest you work really hard around not having expectations, only because it'll free up all these, yeah? So if within your being you feel it's the right thing to do, then do it. But then let go of that expectation. Keep it open. Let it create itself. Don't put energy into it. Let it just create itself. So I guess another side to expectations as well is doing a good deed. Yeah, this one's a really, really tricky one. Because if you have an expectation to your good deed to have something returned to you, then you haven't done a good deed at all. Yeah? You've created an expectation to have your good deed returned to you. And I see this all the time on social media, like how all these people have done all these wonderful things and, you know, then they're complaining, I do all these good things, but nothing ever comes back to me. Nothing ever comes back to me. It's because you have a premeditated resentment towards your good deed. As crazy as that sounds, yeah? Like you're actually doing something physically good, but deep down in your being, there's a resentment of, you know, I've done something good, so therefore I should receive something good in return. But then you don't. So what happens? You make a decision, well, that's it. I'm not going to do anything good for anybody ever again. And it's because you had an expectation of what your actions should or should not be, yeah? And that expectation wasn't filled. So you've gone and done something good and then something shitty happened to you. And now you're questioning your good deed. Because deep down in your being, you have a premeditated resentment attached, yeah? And listen to that word, attached to your good deed. You've created an attachment which has its own consciousness and it has its own mind and its own thing to what you should be expecting in return. So how do you work with this? Like I said before, get rid of this stuff. Don't have an expectation. Keep open and curious. Make it a game. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. Yeah? But also, you know, listen to this. Listen to your body. If at the time you don't feel right about doing something, then don't. Keep it really simple. Don't make it complicated. Yeah? If you feel like you want to do something good, it's because you want to. And the trick to doing a good deed is to keep it a secret. Don't go promoting it, because the moment you promote it, again, you have an expectation of some kind of praise or something to come to you in return. Maybe somebody will hear this good deed and they'll return me a good deed. It doesn't work like that. Yeah? Keep it to yourself. Open and curious. Make it a game. Make it fun. Let's see what happens. Keep it really personal. Keep it within your space. Yeah? You know, if you really need to share with someone, just share with one person, you know, the person you trust the most. And leave it at that. You know, and ask them not to go glorifying your good deed or whatever. Keep it within you. Yeah? Keep that feeling sacred to yourself. And keep that feeling as long as you can, because the moment you put it out there with your expectation, you know, you've lost it. You've broken the game. Yeah? So I hope that helps, and a bit of a different spin, and just keep in your mind, yeah, whenever you're thinking of a future possibility around a situation, expectations equal premeditated resentments. Try and find where your possible resentments are within your being, and you'll have a very different outcome. And it does take practice, and it does take time. You know, you might even have to spend some time writing down possible scenarios so you can see exactly what's going on in your mind. Yeah? And then start crossing out the ones that are going to work against you. So, hope you enjoyed that, and check out the Facebook page, like, share, subscribe, all that sort of new age stuff, and I'm open to all comments and feedback, and hope you have a great day. Thank you.